The smell hit them before the door was fully open. Lena and Felix stood in the doorway of their grandparents' bedroom with their scarves pressed over their mouths and noses and looked at what the winter afternoon light was illuminating on the old wooden bed. Two bodies, side by side. The quilts pulled neatly up to their chins as though someone had tucked them in with care, or with something that resembled care. Lena made herself go closer. Around the neck of the smaller figure on a thin silver chain was an oval locket she recognized immediately, engraved on the back with her grandmother's initials, present in every photograph her mother had ever shown her. Her grandmother's locket on her grandmother's body, her real grandmother, who had been dead for weeks. Felix grabbed her arm. From somewhere inside the locked room, from behind the old bookshelf against the far wall, came the sound of children's voices. Not outside, not imagined, from inside the wall. Felix backed into the bookshelf, trying to get away from the bodies, and the shelf moved. Not fell, moved. Swung outward on a hidden hinge, smooth and well used, revealing a darkness beyond. A secret room. Neither of them wanted to look inside. Both of them stood at the threshold and breathed through their scarves and listened to the voices coming from the dark. Children. Multiple children, calling their names. Lena, Felix, Lena, Felix. Felix took a step inside. Lena followed because she could not let him go alone. The room was very dark and very cold. Colder than the hallway, colder than anywhere in the farmhouse. A cold that had nothing to do with the winter outside, and everything to do with something that had been happening in this room for a very long time. A pale light appeared at the far end. The children's voices intensified. Not calling now, but crying, a sound of pain and desperation, multiple voices overlapping, and beneath the crying, a single repeated message becoming clearer as Lena and Felix moved toward the light. Loft, 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 run, run, run. They reached the far end of the room. In the pale light, they saw what was on the floor. A pile of skulls, arranged with terrible neatness in the center of the stone floor. Beside them, a stone altar, dark with old stains, surrounded by objects whose purpose Lena could not name, but whose meaning she understood immediately and completely in the way that some things bypass rational processing and go directly to something older and more certain. Black magic. This room had been used for black magic for a very long time. On the walls, drawings, scratched directly into the plaster in long, frantic lines. The same figure repeated over and over. Something between human and animal. Long curved fingers with nails like black hooks. Too many teeth, too long, angled wrong. Eyes that were white all the way through. The voices screamed. Laughed. Lena grabbed Felix by the wrist and ran. The winter afternoon outside the farmhouse windows was already failing. In the Black Forest in December, the darkness comes early and completely. Not the gradual dimming of summer evenings, but a sudden closing, as though someone has pulled a curtain across the sky. By 4 o'clock, the world outside the windows was deep blue gray, the snow-covered fields barely visible, the tree line already black. They had maybe 30 minutes of usable light. The front door would not open. Lena tried it 3 times, the handle turning freely, the latch releasing, but the door holding firm as though something on the other side was pressing against it. Felix threw his weight against it. Nothing. Back door. They ran through the kitchen and stopped. The 2 figures who had been living in this house as their grandparents were crouched beneath the kitchen sink. Lena had time to register details she wished she hadn't. The thing that had been wearing her grandmother's face was crouched with its back to them, bent at an angle that no human spine should allow. Its head turned sideways against the floor of the cabinet space. The pot from the refrigerator was beside it. The red liquid, which was not a family recipe, was on the floor and on the walls and on its hands and face. Its hands. The nails were long and black and curved, exactly like the drawings on the secret room wall. The fingers were too long. The knuckles bent the wrong way. The thing turned its head. Where eyes had been were white voids. Not the milky white of cataracts, but absolute white. 2 blank spaces where pupils and irises and all expression had been replaced by nothing. It made a sound, not a human sound, not quite an animal sound. Something between the two, deep in the chest and resonant, the sound of something very hungry that has just located what it wants. Felix and Lena ran through the back door and into the snow. The cold hit them like a physical blow. December in the Black Forest is not manageable cold. It is serious cold, the kind that finds every gap in your clothing immediately, the kind that makes your lungs ache when you breathe. They were wearing indoor clothes. Their coats were on the hooks by the front door they couldn't open. Behind them, they could hear it. Not footsteps exactly, a sound of movement that didn't correspond to any familiar gait. A scraping and a skittering, as though something was moving on hands and feet simultaneously, low to the ground, fast. And under it, the continuous sound, that low chest vibration that Lena was already understanding as the sound these things made when they were hunting. The swing in the courtyard was moving violently in the still air. They ran into the trees. The forest in winter is a different place from the forest in any other season. The deciduous trees are bare, and the snow clings to the branches of the conifers, and the silence is extraordinary. The snow muffles everything, absorbs sound, creates a quiet so complete that the sounds that do exist carry enormous distances. They could hear the things behind them perfectly, getting closer, getting faster. The trees were identical in every direction. No path, no light, no landmark. Felix caught his foot on a root hidden under snow and went down hard, and Lena hauled him up without stopping, and they ran with no idea where they were going. Only away, only away, only away. A light, through the trees, distant, warm, and yellow, and absolutely real. They ran toward it. The Waldkapelle, the forest chapel, was small and very old. Its stone walls black with centuries of weather, its single window glowing with candlelight. A wooden cross above the door. A path of stone steps leading up from the forest floor, brushed clear of snow recently. They took the steps 3 at a time. The door opened inward. They fell through it. Inside, candlelight, the smell of incense and old wood, warmth from a small iron stove in the corner, and in a chair beside the stove, an old man who looked up from the book he was reading with an expression of complete calm that suggested he was neither surprised nor frightened by 2 children falling through his door in the dark. From outside, the sound, that low vibration circling the chapel, getting closer. The sound of long nails on stone as the things found the steps. The old man set his book down and stood up with the unhurried deliberateness of someone who knows exactly what to do because he has done it before. He crossed to the chapel door and pushed it shut and dropped a heavy iron bar into the brackets on either side. Then he came back and sat beside the children on the floor. "You are safe," he said. "This chapel has stood for 400 years. What is outside cannot cross this threshold." Outside, something scraped against the door. Once, long and slow from the bottom to the top. Then stopped. Then silence. His name was Father Gerhard. He had been the keeper of this chapel for 30 years, maintaining it, holding services for the few remaining families in the area, and performing a third function that he described without drama or self-importance: keeping watch. He made them tea from a small kettle on the stove and listened to their story without interrupting. When Felix finished, the old man was quiet for a long time. Then he told them about Heinrich and Marta Brenner. They had lived in a small village further into the forest, a farming couple, by all accounts ordinary and decent, with one deep and devouring grief. They had no children. They had wanted children more than anything. They had tried everything that medicine could offer and found nothing. And eventually, in their desperation, they had tried something else. There were people in the old villages, there had always been such people, who knew older methods. Methods that the church had spent centuries trying to eradicate and never quite managed. Heinrich and Marta had found one such person and had performed a ritual in the forest on a winter solstice night, years ago. They had not been seen again. Or rather, they had been seen again. Returned. Present. Living in the forest in a farmhouse that had previously belonged to another family whose disappearance had never been explained. But Heinrich and Marta, as they returned, were not what they had been. The ritual had given them something. The ability to take the shapes of others, to wear faces, to be for a time whoever they needed to be. but at a cost that the person who had helped them had either not mentioned or had not known. They were no longer alive in any meaningful sense. Not dead either. Something between, sustained by what they consumed, drawn to children with the same hunger they had felt in life, but now transformed into something that could only approximate the thing it desired. Something that could look like grandparents, but not be grandparents. Something that could smile, but not mean it. The children's skulls in the secret room were the evidence of what happened when a child's usefulness, as company, as substitute, as something to fill the void, eventually ran out. Father Gerhard had known about the farmhouse for years. He had warned families away from it when he could. He had not known that these children were coming. "I am sorry," he said. "I should have found a way to prevent this." He looked at them both steadily. "But you found the room, and you ran with..." They found evidence of multiple disappearances spanning many years. They found the pot in the kitchen. Heinrich and Marta Brenner were not found. The forest does not give up its secrets easily or quickly, and the Black Forest in particular has been keeping secrets for longer than any living person can remember. Tracking in fresh snow was possible, but the tracks, which were not quite human tracks, the weight distribution wrong, the spacing irregular, led into the densest part of the forest and ended without explanation at the base of a very large oak tree, as though whatever had made them had simply gone into the tree, or as though the tree had opened and taken them. Lena and Felix were taken to hospital in Freiburg. No physical injuries. Mild hypothermia from their time in the snow. Profound shock that the doctors documented carefully, and that took months to fully recede. Their parents arrived the following morning and held them for a long time without saying anything. Their real grandparents were buried in the village cemetery the following spring. The service was small. Their parents had known for weeks that something was wrong with the phone. The line had been dead since October, but had assumed it was a storm outage. They had been planning to visit the following month. The farmhouse was officially designated a crime scene, and then, after the investigation stalled, an abandoned property. Nobody has attempted to purchase or renovate it. The skulls in the secret room represented 11 children. 11 families whose children had gone missing in the area over a span of approximately 15 years. Missing persons cases. Cold cases. Cases that had been attributed to accidents in the forest, to runaways, to things that made sad sense to the investigators handling them. None of the children had ever been found. Because they had been found by something else first. Father Gerhard still keeps watch in the forest chapel. He says the chapel has not been approached again since that December night. He says this without particular relief, in the way of someone who knows that absence of evidence is not evidence of absence, and that the forest is very large and very patient. He keeps the iron bar on the door brackets at all times now, and every winter, on the solstice, he burns a particular combination of herbs in the chapel stove and reads from a particular section of a very old book, and says particular words that he learned from an older priest who learned them from an older priest still. Just in case, Lena still draws. She has never drawn the farmhouse or the forest. She draws cities, bright, crowded, full of people and light and noise. Places where the darkness stays outside where it belongs. Felix still listens to music. He upgraded from the portable CD player eventually, but he still uses headphones, big ones, over-ear, the kind that block out external sound. His friends tease him about it. He doesn't explain. Some things you understand only if you were there. And some sounds, once you have heard them circling a chapel in the dark, low and patient and hungry, you spend the rest of your life trying not to hear again. He has not been back to the Black Forest. He will not go. Not in winter, not ever. Heinrich and Marta Brenner were never found. The Black Forest covers over 6,000 square kilometers. The oak tree at the end of the tracks was cut down by forestry workers the following spring. Inside the wood, the chainsaw operators found an anomaly. A hollow at the center of the trunk. Perfectly circular, completely dry despite the surrounding wood being saturated with winter moisture. It was empty. It smelled faintly of something they could not identify. None of them slept well that night.